Hello, 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 and welcome back to Final Fantasy 13. The story so far. Or something like that. I think I keep saying or something like that. That is my new trademark phrase, or something like that.
Seasick?
No, I'm fine.
Okay then.
Very short introduction. But we are back with Saz and Vanille, and we are in Nautilus. Yeah, we do have some new intel here. Rigdia. Rigdia is an officer in the Wide Area Response Brigade led by Sid Raines. Hidden behind his cowboy antics is a man of unwavering courage and integrity. Disgusted by the deception of the Sanctum, he once thought to retire from the military, but was instead convinced by Raines to join the cavalry. Finding that the Brigadier General shared his ideals, Rigdia now works as his right-hand man in various operations designed to undermine the government's power. And that's it. That's Rigdia, who was seen at the end of Chapter 7. We did get a Crystarium expansion, I believe, at the end of the last chapter. We also have not seen Saz and Vanille since Chapter 6, and they did have a Crystarium expansion at that point. But you might notice that the CP cost of the nodes on the final ring, or the most recently available ring, is 1,000, in contrast to the 420 and 700 of this ring, and the 330 and 145 of the ring we are currently on. So it is very unlikely that we will be able to complete this Crystarium right now, let alone in this very chapter, and let alone in the next chapter as well. This ring takes a while to fill out. But we do have some new abilities for these characters. There are 3 new commando abilities for Saz. Saz gets Power Chain in this chapter. He also gets Scourge, which deals heavy damage with attack to target about to recover from stagger. I believe we've seen Smite, and Scourge is the ground version of Smite. We also have Jeopardize, boost chain bonus of staggered target upon attacking. This serves as a means of commandos boosting a chain. This is a post-stagger bonus, but it's still not really, like, it's nice and it certainly adds to chain, which is certainly useful, but it's not the replacement of post-stagger Ravager chaining. You certainly would want to utilize Ravagers for most chaining purposes even after stagger. In his Ravager tree, he has 4 new abilities. He gets Aurora, which we saw on Vanille. He gets Fyra, which we saw on Hope. He gets Spark Strike to complement his Flame Strike. And he gets Renew. Renew is a new ability. Revive allies from KO and restore their HP. This sounds like it should be a medic ability, but unlike other medic abilities, and this is in fact in the Ravager tree, unlike medic abilities, this is a technique, and it's a new technique, and it will cost TP to use instead of it being an ability that you can select. It costs 2 TP, and it will regain half of your character's HP and revive allies from KO. It is very useful. Synergist has 4 new abilities. Saz gets Enfrost, add ice attribute to targets Calm, Rav, Sen, or Sab attacks. We've seen in Thunder and in Water previously. Haste, which accelerates target's ATB gauge recharge rate, which is a very useful ability, and probably will be the priority. Boon, extend duration of target's existing status enhancements upon bestowing new ones. This is actually the only synergist auto ability, and what it does is when you cast a buff on a character, any previous active buffs get a 5-second enhancement boost. So if you cast, say, Bravery on a target that has Faith, that Faith will last 5 seconds longer than previously. So you can sort of artificially extend buff durations by spamming buffs on a single character. Not really worth spamming though, but another one of those abilities that are nice to have. And in Fire, add Fire attribute to targets, Comrav, Sen, or Sap attacks. This is the last end spell. There is in fact no in Arrow in this game. There's only in Fire, in Frost, in Thunder, and in Water. And this will give Saz the ability to give any one of the 4 main elements to any commando, which will greatly increase their offensive damage dealing capabilities. Vanille has 3 new Ravager abilities, and they are Blizzard, Watera, deal water damage to targets in range, staggered targets get an increased chain bonus. So that's the water version of the AoE ability. And Blizzara, deal ice damage to targets in range, staggered targets get an increased chaining bonus. I don't remember if we've seen Blizzara, but it's consistent with the other Ras. Saboteur has 2 new abilities. Imperil, reduce target's elemental resistances, which complements Saz's end spells really well, because this can create an elemental weakness when one previously did not exist. Imperil is in fact one of the most useful debuffs in the game, because it can allow for double damage against some enemies, and this also can help increase chaining, but I'll talk about that probably much later. She gets her accessory slot here, and over here she gets Dispel. Remove target's most recent status enhancement. So Dispel can cancel a target's buff, useful against enemies that can buff. There aren't really too many of those enemies, but against those enemies, Dispel can be very useful to cancel their Bravery effect, or get rid of their Vigilance effect, or get rid of their Protect effect if you can't inflict Deprotect otherwise. Medic has 2 new abilities. For her, they are Renew. So her technique Renew is available over here. This is a technique, so it's not exclusive to Medic, but it is in her Medic tree. And Raise, revive an ally from KO. This is a Medic ability, and this sort of serves as the Medic's version of Phoenix Down. Unlike Phoenix Downs, this is free. However, it's not really worth using even when everyone's fully set up or maxed out on Crystarium. Raise kind of sucks. Raise, I believe, sets the character's HP at like 30% or so, and then you have to heal them. Whereas the Phoenix Down would restore them to about 70%, and it doesn't take any ATB. It does take an item, but it doesn't take as long to get back to full shape. Alright, those are the new abilities, and of course the role levels. We actually have role level 3s available for all characters at the end of this latest stage. But this individual node costs 2000 CP, and it's guarded by a variety of nodes that cost 1000 CP. Even if I only had to get this stage's CP, it would be very expensive to get the role level. So we're not really going to prioritize the role levels just yet. This Crystarium expansion actually is supposed to last for a while, so we will be developing here frequently. But there were some very useful abilities that we want to pick up immediately, the first of which was Saz's Haste. Along the way we get his Frost, which is great, and then we get his Haste. And while we're here, we might as well continue and get in Fire, picking up Boon along the way. This will cost just shy of 5000 CP, but it is worthwhile because getting Saz access to all 4 end spells will allow him to cast the corresponding end spell when there is a corresponding enemy weakness. So that gets him all 9 abilities there. The commando tree had 3 abilities. I don't know that any of them were really that particularly exciting. Scourge can be pretty powerful when used correctly, and Jeopardize is certainly at least worthwhile to have, but not necessarily to invest in. It might be better to go invest in his Ravager to pick up the Aurora spell, and Fyra, and Spark Strike, and Renew can be useful. It does cost TP, but in a dire emergency, it would be faster to cast a Renew than it would be to throw a Phoenix down, and potions if needed. So that's as far as we can get in his Ravager. Vanille, we certainly want to get her in Peril, especially because it's right here and it costs only 400 CP. And her accessory slot is pretty nice to have. In fact, accessory slots in general are very nice to have and are probably worth prioritizing. Dispel, not as much. It will be nice to have eventually, but I don't want to invest in it right now. Medic would give her access to Raise and Renew, but I don't need those right now. So instead, I'm going to invest in Ravager to pick up the Ravager abilities on her final stage. And the last one was over here. Can't quite get there, but we are somewhat close. And so now both of these characters have 2 accessory slots, and so we can equip them with whatever accessories we have. Unfortunately, this wasn't actually intentionally done. We don't have access to a variety of accessories that were left on the party after the Havoc Sky Tank fight. We don't have this tungsten bangle. We do have a spare one hanging around. We don't have the 2 power wristband stars. We don't have this Magician's Mark star or the Shaman's Mark level 1. We don't have this 1 black belt star. But we do have 1 black belt star left and a black belt level 1. We do have a Brawler's wristband level 1, and that's more than enough really to get through this chapter. We'll give Saz a Brawler's wristband for increased damage dealing. Vanille, we're not really going to use that offensively, so I'm going to go ahead and give her a tungsten bangle. And because her HP is higher than Saz, I'm going to give her the level 1 black belt, and I'm going to give Saz the black belt star. I don't anticipate needing magic resistance for the time being, but we'll see how that goes. Now, the shop expanded, and the shop point is right here, so let's go ahead and see the new items that are available. Claudus's workshop is entirely new. The description of the shop: brute force may win the easy battles, but readiness wins them all. Our master craftsmen produce only the finest and specialized weaponry, granting you the edge that separates the best from the rest, in peace. Discerning customers agree. If you want quality, you want Plautus. It's another weapon shop. So Up in Arms has its own variety of weapons, but none of them really have any special effects. They seem to be stat-based for the most part. But Plautus's workshop does provide weapons with special abilities. Now, because we've picked every chest along the way, we do have every single one of these weapons, which means that we don't need to purchase any of these. Which is great because these are very expensive. These cost tens of thousands of gil. But if you do want to maybe invest in the Belladonna wand because you missed it or you previously sold it, you can certainly go ahead and pick it up now. Improved debuffing is a very useful special effect to have on Vanille. The other auto abilities that we see right now aren't as useful right now. Improved guard is certainly useful. Improved counter, not so much, especially when Fang still lacks a counterattack. Critical shield, not as much. Stagger maintenance, if you missed the previous discussion, is basically useless because if you play effectively, you are almost guaranteed to have a max duration stagger. Attack ATB charge is decent unless you upgrade weapons, in which case her Axis Blade stats scale horribly. And in terms of general damage per second, her Gladius or Edged Carbine is better. But the Belladonna wand is almost certainly Vanille's best weapon, period. And so if you didn't get it, or you previously sold it erroneously or in emergency to purchase something else, you can now purchase it back for a low, low price of 31,200 gil. If you do need gil, although I don't seem to have any on hand, you can certainly go ahead and sell any incentive chips or credit chips that you got in the previous chapter, especially if you spent time farming in Hope's house, which is one of the easiest early areas to farm early game gil. None of the components I have on hand I want to sell, and I certainly don't want to sell the Rhodocrossite or the Uraninite. Uraninite was actually dropped from Havoc Sky Tank. Its description: a radioactive mineral rich in uranium, functions as a transformational catalyst. Anything that is a transformational catalyst, basically, you want to hold on to, because unlike most other items, the sell price of these components do not match with their purchase price. And you don't have the shop that actually sells these yet, but Uraninite, I believe, costs, off the top of my head, 60,000 gil to purchase, but 5,000 gil to sell, whereas everything else sells for half its purchase price, so it's not too bad to sell. The only transformational catalyst that I've sold, and I would recommend you sell as well, is Millerite, because it is a very useless transformational catalyst. It's not worth holding on to, it's not worth using. Its only purpose is to upgrade a maxed iron bangle into a silver bangle, but it is a massive waste of money considering that you can purchase the iron bangle upgrade from B&W Outfitters for 800 gil, instead of using the 1,000 gil catalyst to upgrade. In any case, the other things we have, Magical Moments now sells Guardian Amulets in case you want those critical protects. The upgrades of these accessories, by the way, change the word critical into auto, which means that instead of this casting when your HP is low, it casts immediately at the start of the fight. Unlike the auto buffs from Final Fantasy X, these buffs are temporary. They actually last only 60 seconds. Or is it 30 seconds? It might actually be 30 seconds. I actually don't remember. These are temporary. They don't last the entirety of the fight. They can be dispelled. So they're not as OP as Final Fantasy X's auto abilities. But maybe sometime in the future we'll invest in those. Creature Comforts now sells Fragrant Oils, Barbed Tails, Bestial Claws, Vibrant Oozes, and Iron Shells. And the only ones that are worth purchasing ever: Sturdy Bone from previously, but now Barbed Tail and Vibrant Ooze. Those three are, for all intents and purposes, equivalent and are the most effective organic components to upgrade with in order to get to the X3 multiplier. So from now on, we have all three of these. Even if Creature Comforts adds more items, it doesn't take away from these three components that are very effective in using. The ones we have on hand, whatever we get dropped from fights, as long as they don't sell for more than 420 gil, they should be used directly instead of sold. Alright, now for this chapter. Notice there's a lot of NPCs, which means we're going to walk around and talk to NPCs for a while.
The park is very crowded today, so please keep an eye on your children.
We have a host of exciting new attractions under construction. If you'd like to experience them, be sure to come back soon.
The park is very crowded today, so please keep an eye on your children.
Wow. There's so many people.
I apologize for any
I guess the
inconvenience
first
you may
ride's crowd
experience
surfing.
as a result of today's unusually high attendance. I apologize for any
I guess the
inconvenience
first
you
ride's
may
crowd
experience
surfing.
as a result of today's unusually high attendance.
Are we supposed to meet again?
Maybe you should give her a quick call.
It's kind of hard to be able to talk to a single NPC.
Sure is lively.
I guess the
Is there
first
some
ride's
kind of
crowd
event
surfing.
going on?
Come on, time's a-wasting.
Don't worry. I planned out the entire day to ensure maximum enjoyment.
Come on,
Let's go
time's
over there.
a-wasting.
I don't see any chocobos. I don't see any chocobos.
Whoa! Nautilus! It's just like in the guidebook. Whoa! Nautilus! It's just like in the
It's incredible. Nowhere draws crowds like Nautilus. This is incredible. Nowhere draws crowds.
Hello and welcome to Nautilus. We hope you have a pleasant day. Hello and welcome to Nautilus. We hope you have a pleasant day.
Enjoy your stay in Nautilus, the entertainment capital of Cocoon. Enjoy your stay in Nautilus, the entertainment capital of Cocoon.
Hope we don't get separated.
You gotta see the clock tower. You gotta see the clock tower.
I want to go to the Fiend Lord's Keep.
Ever made it here? Chocobos are great too, but the sheep are so precious. Ah, yeah. Where's the bathroom?
If you need to hit the bathroom, now's your shot.
Where's the bathroom?
If you need to hit the bathroom, now's your shot.
Let's grab a bite before we head to the park.
Yay!
You're having more fun than anyone, huh?
If you need to
Dad?
hit the bathroom, now's your shot.
He doesn't seem like he's having fun.
Parade will be held along Main Street. Parade will be held along Main Street.
If you have any spare time today, please stop by and meet our friendly chocobos. Don't forget to sample the culinary delights at our luxurious park restaurants. If you have any spare time today, please stop by and meet our friendly chocobos.
Now I'm wondering if the culinary delights involve chocobos.
Wait! We can race!
Go buy me one of them chocobo chicks to take home. They sell them at the corral, don't they? Go buy me one of them chocobo chicks to take home.
Are you allowed to keep chocobo feathers you find on the ground? Do you remember the first time we came here? Back when we were still dating?
Still dating? They break up.
Are you allowed to keep chocobo feathers you find on the ground?
We hope you enjoy your visit. We hope you enjoy your visit.
Not a lot of security here. Yeah, for these people, the Lassie panic must still seem like a world away. Huh.
Huh?
Oh, hey. Looks like they're putting Eidolons on parade. We're starting soon. What do you say? Let's go check it out.
Sure! Huh?
We interrupt this program to bring you a breaking news update. The Lassie, who surfaced in Palompolam and attacked the city's citizens, are still on the run from authorities. Sanctum soldiers are tracking their location, but have yet to engage the fugitives. The presence of hostages has been confirmed.
What's wrong?
It's her!
Yep. Looks like the army finally found him.
Hostages? They should just blow them away with the Lassie.
They're all infected by pulse or something by now anyway.
The parade's about to start. Come on, let's go.
Wow. Blow away the hostages because they're infected. Jeez Louise. That's pretty, like, cruel. Screw the rest of Cocoon. If they're infected, you know, Anyway.
Talk about close calls. I was in Palampolum just yesterday.
Oh. Is that the guy that said blow him away? Would he have felt the same way if he were in Palampolum today instead of yesterday?
They showed, was it the sea? It looked just like a person.
Talk about close calls. I was in
What are we gonna do if the Lassie come here?
We're safe in Nautilus. They've got great security here.
What are we gonna do if the Lassie come here?
So this is previously where a bunch of people were crowding up and blocking this area, which means that we've talked to these people before.
Sea in Palampolum? For real? Sea in Palampolum? For real?
There's a Lassie out there and nobody's arrested it. That's totally not cool.
Sorry for catch the Lassie soon.
It's hard to hear a single person speak when you run into both at the same time.
What's the sanctum thinking? Show a video like that, and every idiot on Cocoon's gonna panic.
Frosty will take care of everything. I don't see why people think we need to get involved.
What's the sanctum thinking? Show a video like that.
No point in coming if you don't buy souvenirs. I want one. What are you gonna get me, Mom?
I'm getting the biggest carbuncle they've got. What else?
Sure, everybody's fine.
Chocobo before?
Right?
I'm gonna have to pass on the chocobo. I'm allergic to the darn things.
Sheep are better than the chocobos. I can't get enough of that fluff.
You've never touched a chocobo before? I'm gonna have to pass on the chocobo. I'm allergic to the darn things.
Are they just looping through it? Oh.
What time's the parade start?
Why don't we hit the parade route a little early and get ourselves a good spot?
What time's the parade start?
In light of recent events elsewhere, we have heightened security to ensure that you and your loved ones can enjoy your time in Nautilus in peace. Sweet dreams.
That sounds almost like Fang.
In light of recent events elsewhere, we have heightened security.
If there's anything we can do to make your dream here that little bit sweeter, just say the word. If there's anything we can do to make your dream here that little bit sweeter, just...
Hey, loosen up. Gotta make the most of this. Right?
I knew we'd be saying goodbye soon. Better to do it with a smile. The Pompous Sancta Parade, a pageant commemorating the war between Cocoon and Pulse.
The show is starting. Look.
It's party time, little lady.
Here comes the attack from Pulse.
With trusty blade and Falsi's aid, I will defend Cocoon! To battle! You dare oppose me? I will fulfill my focus!
Ragnarok!
Falsi grant me strength!
Whoa, man.
Sometimes I had to wonder, could our deaths have brought back peace?
Where to next, little lady?
I'll let you decide. Just keep on smiling.
I know. A Nautilus Park Day. With Saz.
Yeah, but should we really be playing around?
Forget about that heavy stuff for a while. And maybe this'll just fade away.
Okay.
Great. Let's roll.
Forget about the heavy stuff for a while, and this will fade away. Saz just basically summarized the general human condition. The Pompa Sancta. This festive nighttime dance parade depicts the events of the War of Transgression in a stylish and dazzling display of pageantry. Held in Nautilus, the production portrays Cocoon Falsi as Eidolons who combine their powers with those of flamboyant Sanctum Lassie in order to overthrow the villainous Lassie of Pulse. In the show's dramatic finale, a Pulse Lassie transforms into an abomination reminiscent of Ragnarok before finally being slain by a righteous Lassie from Cocoon.
So this is the city of dreams?
Lights, the music, man, that gave me goosebumps.
My heart's still doing backflips.
The lights, the music, man, that gave me...
Where should we go? What's everybody talking about?
Let's keep again? Maybe I should ask a guy.
The lights really made the show. That was incredible.
I wonder how it feels inside
Really
those
got my
balls of
waterworks
light.
going.
I wish they would have picked me to be a witch. Oh, that looked like fun.
I've never seen anything
really
like
got
that
my
before.
waterworks going.
That war was the reason the Sanctum formed an army, wasn't it?
Wonder what would happen if Pulse came at us now.
That war was the reason the Sanctum formed an army, wasn't it?
We wouldn't have the lives we do if it weren't for the Falsi. We wouldn't have the lives we do if it weren't for the Falsi.
Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
Forget it. I don't need one bad enough to wait that long.
Maybe right after the parade wasn't the best time to get in line.
I didn't only buy those things here. I could snag one. I promised I would.
These dolls are the reason I came here
Can you
today.
believe that line?
Might as well line up. It's not like we're here every day.
Ifrit's awesome.
Come on,
You can feel
let's
the
go.
rage.
Last time I was here, the person in front of me bought the last one.
Carbuncle silk.
Oh, they just started selling those, didn't they?
I'm the one who designed them.
Park is very crowded today, so please keep an eye on your children.
This place is huge. I hope I don't get lost. I feel like I'm dreaming.
Clock tower's always a sight.
Can we actually see the clock tower from here? That thing. There's an interesting thing about 13's clock that I'll point out if we can ever see it.
What's in Nautilus Park anyway?
It's a huge amusement park, built by the Sanctum. Bet they never expected to see visitors.
So, is this place special?
I promised Dodge. I was gonna bring him someday. Hope I can at least tell him about it.
You get the chance?
Maybe. I do know where they're keeping him.
Can I come with you?
Sure. More the merrier. What about you? You got someone special out there?
Special? No.
Really? Now that is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm kidding. I didn't mean to upset you.
Well, I'm just fine, thank you. I wanted to tell him everything, but I couldn't. Not until the time was right.
Vanille can't exactly open up about Fang because that involves revealing that she's a pulselessee. Although I guess technically she is a pulselessee, but was always a pulselessee as Fang revealed in Chapter 7. I thought there was an NPC over here, but I guess they wandered away.
Taking a levy cab ain't cheap.
I bet Nautilus is gorgeous from the air at night.
Ooh. Ooh, they're so tiny. The Nautilus. Are we allowed to pet them?
Wow, time
Look
flies
at these
when you're
woolly
having
little
fun.
things. I just want to squeeze them till they pop.
Vanille's kind of interrupting the conversation I'm trying to have with this NPC group, but okay.
Oh no, I forgot to buy presents.
Sometimes it seems like a group of NPCs share dialogue, and sometimes it seems that they are one-off conversations, so I'm trying to wander slowly into one of them. Trigger their one-at-a-time conversation.
Come back again sometime, okay?
I'm tired. Give me a chocoback ride.
Two passengers, enjoy your ride.
Last call for Nautilus passengers bound for Nautilus Park.
Wonder where we can go on this thing.
Clock tower's always a
Be more
sight.
cute next time. I promise I won't scream much.
Every time I come here, I find something new. There's so much to this place.
I could come here every day and never get sick of it.
Wait for me.
There's always new stuff to try, no matter when you visit.
This seems like a door to somewhere, but it's not.
There's always new stuff to try, no matter when you visit.
It's back to work tomorrow. I wish today would never end.
I never feel tired until it's time to go home.
Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
It's back to work tomorrow.
And then there's a save point here. This lift actually takes you back to Nautilus Station, which was the first area we were in. There is no reason to backtrack, unfortunately, so we'll just move on to Nautilus Park.
Oh, I thought I smelled something. That's Chocobo, isn't it?
Seems like it's artificially bright in here. I mean, you can sort of see that this is a dome-like area. It's kind of... I mean, it's synthetic. It's kind of like that one movie. Can't remember what it's called, but it's like that one movie.
Welcome to Nautilus, the city of dreams. Welcome to Nautilus, the city of dreams.
Somebody's excited.
Yeah. Hey, you can make some new friends.
Dodge is crazy about chocobos. He really wanted to come here.
Let's look around.
Indeed. And in we go.
Alright, now we get Nautilus Park. Nautilus Park is the crown jewel of the Sanctum-built City of Dreams. It houses numerous attractions constructed with the latest technology, but the true stars of the park are the chocobos and sheep found in the family-friendly petting zoo. With the wilds of Cocoon crawling with all manner of vicious beasts, people find the presence of the docile park animals to be a rare and reassuring change.
Just like the real thing. Hey, I saw this one at the parade. Hello? Quack.
Quack?
Aren't their eyes just adorable?
Quack.
Kick from one of them and it'd be lights out, huh?
Quack.
I'm sorry, the Bean Lord's Keep isn't open to the public yet. Sorry, the Bean Lord's Keep isn't open to the public.
City of Dreams welcomes dreamers of all ages.
Actually run in this one? Yeah, you can. Unlike the others, it's uneventful.
If you've never seen our spectacular Papa Sancta parade, why not make today the day?
We hope you enjoy your visit. Welcome to Nautilus and sweet dreams.
Quack. There's an item ball over here. First item ball of the chapter. A tuft of phoenix down.
Catch a whiff of that musky smell? It's from the chocobo.
How you doing?
You. Let's go somewhere else.
They look like their own
My
buddies.
clothes don't end up smelling like chocobo.
Walk with the chocobos in our chocobo corral.
Okay. Can the chocobo speak? No?
I'm gonna go peek ahead.
Oh. Ooh, the smell. Ah, glad I don't work here.
The smell reminded me of home. The wilderness of Pulse.
Hey, come back here.
Flight of the Chocobo. The Chocobo chick has taken wing. Find where the fugitive fledgling is hiding. It could not have gone far yet. Welcome to a mini game. The first NPCs. More giggling. What? Yeah, in case it wasn't made clear, the Chocobo chick can't be back over there.
We ask that parents please watch their children closely for their safety and that of the animal.
Isn't there a foul C in charge of deodorizing these things?
We hope you enjoy your visit, Happy. Free to roam a wide open place like this.
Okay, I guess that's all of the NPCs.
Find that rascal.
Did we always sell these toys?
We get rewarded for this mandatory minigame with this item ball, which contains a star pendant. In case you wanted more poison resistance.
Part of the gang already.
Always good to be among friends.
The fun times are doubled, and your worries feel far away.
And nothing ever seems as scary when you have someone to share it with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still number one, of course.
Of course. Thanks, Vanille. Now, when I see Dodge, I can tell him about the Chocobos. He's being held by the military.
Psychom, you mean?
Yeah, since he's a cocoonless. They're running tests. They're trying to figure out his focus. I'm turning myself in.
Huh?
I know they execute Lassie, but hey, they're not total monsters. They'll listen to a final request. They'll have to. Before the end, I want to talk to Dodge one last time. I want to tell him about these chocobos. I want to tell him about everything I've seen.
But wait! Sass!
Listen, I don't want you to worry. You're not part of this. You'll have plenty of time to split before I surrender.
That's not what I meant!
I'm sorry, Vanille. I'm tired of all this running.
But... you can't. What about Dodge?
Huh?
It's a Lassie because of someone from Pulse. You can't give up without getting revenge. I know who it is. I know who's responsible for the accident. The accident at Uriday.
Then tell me!
The Lassie who ruined your life was...
Soldiers? Where'd they come from? Get out of here, Vanille! No place left to run.
Now we get to the action. But first, Nautilus Security Regiment. This Guardian Corps unit is responsible for maintaining security in Nautilus, the popular city of dreams. With the fun-filled amusement park requiring little supervision, the Nautilus Security Regiment spends much of its time practicing combat maneuvers. The regiment's highly trained soldiers are often deployed in support of SciComm operations, and many of its members joined the sweep teams searching for fugitive Lassie in the Vile Peaks.
We surrender, they'll kill us!
And now you can't go back to the Chocobos, and it is now synthetic nighttime here, I guess. Alright, so we're about to fight things, and so it might be wise to get paradigms set up if needed. But we actually have these inherited from the previous chapter. I am going to turn one of these Comstabs into a Comrav, because what was useful at that time, I don't need as much. But I'm gonna start in Tide Turner, I think. I believe we've actually seen these soldiers before. Yes, these are Core Gunners. As we can see, they're weak to fire and frost, which is great when we have in fire and in frost now.
No stopping us.
But they are, at this point in the game, pretty weak. They're easily taken out.
This is gonna sting.
I believe we last saw these guys in Chapter 5.
This is gonna sting.
We have the Core Gunners, and we have Orion. This is an enemy from the previous chapter. Back then, we didn't have any ability to cast end spells or cast Deep Protect, and thus fights were pretty slow. But now we have Saz, who can give us Frost, and we have Vanille, who can cast Deep Protect. So this should go significantly faster. But since we got the preempt, we're going to open with Quake for a chain duration. And everyone is weak to Frost. And I might as well cast Haste, since it's a new debuff.
This is gonna sting.
Now look how much damage Saz did. Basically one-shotted the Orion. Because we had the combination of Infrost with Deprotect, and if I had given Saz Bravery, it would have done even more damage, but that wasn't as necessary. These are new enemies. They are weak to fire and arrow. If you don't have an arrow, because it's not a buff in 13, we'll have to settle for in fire. And the fight ends quickly. This chest has Spica Defenders. These pistols boast functions designed to aid the survival of outdoor enthusiasts. Its passive ability is Augment Maintenance. Slightly extends the duration of offensive buffs, which can be handy, but I'm going to stick with my current equipment. Get rid of the exclamation points. Let's see. They are all weak to fire.
Oh, you're gonna love this.
Just an exciting and spectacular dead end. So we don't have a common weakness across all of these guys, but Orion is normal to fire, which means that if he is inflicted with Imperil, he will in fact become weak to fire. So I can exploit that by giving Saz fire. I'm gonna speed things up by giving him haste. And just for some extra damage dealing, we'll cast Bravery. I'm gonna stick in Divide and Conquer so that we can get the debuffs that I possibly need. We don't have Imperil, but we do have Deprotect.
This is gonna sting.
And there's Imperil. Ooh, that's close. But we survived. There's another one up here, but I believe we can run into him before he fully activates, which triggers the preemptive strike. And he dies pretty handily. This chest has a Guardian Amulet, which grants critical protect. Actually, let me double check that fact. Yep. Not the auto version.
No stopping us. This is gonna sting.
This chest has a healer's staff. The restorative properties of the staff suggest it was once used by ancient healers. It provides the passive ability healers, or I almost said healer's lore, which is not the same thing. It provides improved cure, which slightly enhances the restorative effects of cure spells. This is actually a very weak weapon because it doesn't grant good magic boosts, which also serve to increase cure effects. You would rather want to have a magic increase as opposed to improved cure for your cure needs. Still want to get a good look at that clock tower. You can actually see the clock up there. If you count the hours on that clock, you'll notice that there are, in fact, 13 hours instead of 12. Days in Cocoon are actually 26-hour days instead of 24-hour days. Fun fact. Maybe that gives you a little better look. And here we have a boss.
It's gonna sting.
Midlight Reaper. 100,800 HP. I was forgetting the word 100 or 1,000, I guess. 50 chain resistance, stagger point 160%, susceptible to imperil, weak to fire, weak to frost, halves physical, halves magical, immune to thunder. So that's some useful information there. He's weak to fire and frost. So because he has natural weaknesses, we don't really need the imperil. So the status note susceptible to imperil isn't really too relevant for us. I mean, this is actually one to force Vanille to try to cast imperil. But we really want to have a different kind of debuff. We really want to have Deprotect. And unfortunately, he has a very high Deprotect resistance, as we'll see. Phew. After Stagger, Aurora does do increased chaining, like the Fyra version, even though it costs 3 ATB. Vanille died. I don't have Renew.
getting serious now.
And we didn't get the protect.
Oh, you're gonna love this. This is gonna sting.
And we lost Imperial too.
This is gonna sting.
As I said, it's very hard to get D-Protect in this fight. But now with D-Protect, we can do good damage with Saz.
This is gonna sting.
And now fully debuffed, you should be able to go down pretty quickly.
Huh?
Daddy, I found you.
Huh?
Daddy, got you.
Dodge, why are you here?
Because you promised.
But how did you get here? Dodge! Wait! Come back! Dodge! Not you. Not you, Dodge.
The capture of undesirables. It seems that was your son's focus. Dodge fulfilled it admirably and served Cocoon in the process. You should be proud of him. Mr. Catsroy. Dodge was a great help. He could sense power of Pulse origin. That let us monitor you. Words can't express our gratitude. The data he provided on Enemyless Sea was invaluable. And speaking of gratitude... We enhanced the surveillance footage from the energy plant.
Come back?
Those are the pulseless sea behind what happened.
We got close to a Cocoon fal'Cie.
The picture's a little grainy, but I'm sure you recognize that one. You've spent so much time together.
Fang, let's go. What's our focus even matter?
What's it matter? You want to be a monster?
I just...
Keep your chin up. We know the part that matters. Right? We are enemies of Cocoon. Know what I say? Play the part and raise some hell. Might jumpstart our memories.
What?
The fal'Cie. Let's smash it.
Who are you? Huh? Daddy!
Vanille.
reason Dodge was made a l'Cie. Ironic, isn't it? The very girl you're protecting is the one who stole your son. Hold. Shall we finish the job? Or would you prefer to?
Colonel Labat, what now?
Follow them and observe. How often do l'Cie kill their own?
My, some pretty deep shit. Dodge Catsroy. Dodge is Saz's only child. His mother passed away 3 years ago, but instead of being miserable, he bravely comforts his grieving father. During the incident at the Uriday Gorge energy plant, Dodge is made into a Sanctum l'Cie with the ability to sense power of Pulse origin. Although he discovers the fal'Cie in Bodum, his true focus, capturing Pulse l'Cie, is learned when he is reunited with his father and turns to Crystal. So, Sarah is a crystal and Dodge is a crystal. Dodge is actually a Sanctum l'Cie, whereas Sarah was a Pulse l'Cie. Both have gotten crystallization. Both have fulfilled whatever their focuses were. And presumably that means that they will spend eternity in crystal. Which kind of bites. We have the Motherlode, which is an electronic pass granting access to the Motherlode retail network. Whatever that means. But another thing to note is that we don't have Vanille, because of course she ran forward, and we're supposed to chase her. But you can actually turn around. And even though in the cutscene we have Nabat here with her soldiers, who are sent to observe the Pulse l'Cie kill each other, they're not here. But what are here are the enemies that we previously killed. And we can fight them Saz solo. This is one of the few segments of the game where there's a solo character. And you can see how difficult it is to have only one person in your party. But hey, we did a battle with one character in our party. Yay! But there's no reason really to do any of this. Just if you like challenging yourself, I guess.
Why did I even try to run? What was waiting wasn't something I could change.
are cold-blooded. Lying so people would trust you. Using them as shields. How many you gotta drag down with you? A coward and a killer. The people you use don't get to live. Why should you? Tired of living with guilt? Then die with it. Vanille.
My name is Herbadia Vanille. I'm a lassie from Grand Pulse. And to everyone on Cocoon, evil. Shoot me for your son.
Don't you even! You think you die, and that's that? Hmm? You think you die and everything will be sugar and rainbows?
Then what can I do? What do you want from me? If I can't live or die, what do you want me to do?
Don't ask me. You figure it out.
I don't know!
Neither do I. It's over. There's nothing to do. Shooting you won't help. Neither will living.
Do your worst, you freak!
It's not over.
Okay, fine. You want me? Come and get me!
Alright, so, as is typical in the middle of an emotional turmoil, we get an Eidolon fight. However, before I do, I'm gonna retry, which will sort of reset us to before the cutscenes, but will give us the ability to reset our setup, which is kind of important because our current setup is inherited from Midlight Reaper. I want to use something different. So first off, I'm going to unequip things because, well, actually I think I'm going to leave the tungsten on Vanille and the black belts. Actually, no, I'm not going to use... I'm actually going to do a black belt level 1 and an Ember Ring, and I'm going to give Saz the black belt star and the Ember Ring. Because, well, Brunhilde uses fire elemental abilities and physical elemental abilities, so hopefully the combination of these things will help keep us alive. There is some important things to note in this fight, and the main of it is how Gestalt works, really. For the most part, for most roles, Gestalt is increased when you increase the target's chain gauge. this isn't 100% accurate. For instance, Sentinel increases the chain gauge, or the Sentinel increases the Gestalt gauge, but just by taking attacks and not actually doing anything else. But Commando and Ravager and Saboteur, they increase the Gestalt gauge via chain gauge increase. If you hear that, then you will think that the best role to use for increasing the Gestalt gauge is Ravager, because Ravagers increase the chain gauge way more than the other roles. However, for the most part, they operate about equally as far as that Gestalt purposes go, because for Gestalt increase, the increase is based on which role you are in. Commando gets the biggest increase relative to chain gauge increase. Saboteur gets a reasonable increase relative to chain gauge increase. Ravager doesn't as much because Ravager already increases the chain by a significant amount. However, it generally works out that Ravagers work very well because they are very well built for increasing the chain gauge anyway. But Commandos increase the chain gauge slightly, but have a huge bonus to the Gestalt gauge per percentage point of chain gauge increase. There's an exploit that we can utilize in this fight that takes advantage of a mechanic that I haven't really talked about too much, called chaining conditional modifiers. Every role has a collection of conditional modifiers that when you successfully implement them, they increase the chain gauge by a flat amount, not affected by chain resistance. For the most part, these increases are pretty small relative to other chaining means. Namely, if the target has 0 chain resistance, then conditional chaining modifiers don't do that much, especially in the Ravager role. But against a target with high chain resistance, conditional modifiers are very good. Every single role has a modifier for alternating abilities. If you use Commando and you execute a string of attack, ruin, attack, the alternating abilities, namely the ruin and the second attack, will add 0.2% to the chain gauge in addition to the base amount. Against a target with 100 chain resistance, simply doing attack, ruin, attack will increase the chain gauge by 0.4%, even though normal abilities would not increase the chain gauge at all. This is true also in the Ravager role. Fire, Thunder, each alternated ability will increase the chain gauge by a further 0.2% in addition to whatever the Fire Thunders increase. Saboteurs also have this. If you do D-Protect, D-Shell, D-Protect, D-Shell, in that order, the alternating abilities will increase the chain gauge by a further 0.2%. In addition, there is a modifier for alternating abilities while also targeting the target's weakness. This mainly would pertain to Ravager, where if you alternate Fire Thunder against a target that is weak to Fire and Thunder, the chain gauge gets increased by a further 0.7%. But because Saz has Ed spells, he can give Commando abilities and Saboteur abilities elemental affinities, and so they too can benefit from the conditional modifier for alternating abilities against the target's weakness. It turns out that giving Saz an end spell in this fight against Brunhilde's ace weakness and alternating abilities in Commando works exceptionally well because of the great Gestalt bonus granted in the Commando role and the 0.9 percentage points of increase that we can get via conditional modifiers. The Gestalt bar increases significantly. This is especially notable because Saz's Ravager is actually not very effective in this fight. As we see Brunhilde's intel, we'll see why that is. So the best means of increasing the Gestalt gauge in this fight is by alternating abilities as Saz in Commando when he has Enfrost on his character. There's another mechanic here that's probably more of an oversight. But if you use Saz's Blitz, each individual bullet that his Blitz fires has the conditional modifiers attached to it. Namely, if we alternate into Blitz through probably attack Blitz, then Blitz is an alternating attack, so it gets conditional modifiers, and each individual Blitz bullet profits from those conditional modifiers, so each Blitz bullet will increase the chain gauge by 0.9%. And furthermore, each individual bullet will increase the Gestalt bar by the corresponding amount. Put simply, the most effective way to handle this fight is giving Saz and Frost, shifting to a commando role, and using attack Blitz. So there's not really much else to do. I mean, Vanille can contribute via Ravager, not necessarily as much with Saboteur, so maybe we want to utilize War and Peace. I mean, we do have potions that we could throw, and I have thrown potions to this point, but Vanille's contribution to the Gestalt gauge is pretty small relative to Saz's attack Blitz, so I won't need her as much, but I will use Commando Ravager. So give Saz in Frost. In fact, I should show why in Frost is especially useful here. And that's because Brunhilde is in fact weak to ice, as I said. Now, Brunhilde absorbs fire, so you've probably noticed by now that Brunhilde is a fire elemental Eidolon. He absorbs fire, but is normal to thunder and arrow. So, if we were a Ravager, the best means of increasing chain would probably be to use Thunder, Arrow, Thunder to alternate abilities for the conditional modifiers. And if Vanille landed in peril, we would have elemental weaknesses for Thunder and Arrow, and so they would also profit from the conditional modifiers for elemental weaknesses and alternating. So that's really the best means of proceeding in this fight. Getting Frost on Saz, and then use attack Blitz. And as we see, once he does the Blitz, the Gestalt bar increases by a significant amount. As such.
Oh, you're gonna love this. This is gonna sting.
You can do it!
That's right. Let's do it.
So that was a 54-second fight. Most people would probably spend upwards of 2 to 2.5 minutes because of the difficulties with increasing the chain gauge. But by utilizing Infrost with Attack Blitz and exploiting all of the commando bonuses and modifiers, we get a significantly faster fight.
lot of things can be excused. Shooting kids ain't one.
Kindness like his, you don't forget.
Enough is enough.
Do be careful with those. For every task, there's a perfect tool.
All of Cocoon was against us. With us dead, they were sure everything would go back. Back to the way it was before.
Moment of silence for our fallen hero. That does wrap up Chapter 8. Which means next time we'll see Chapter 9.